system and the 5 front passages in a weather system, I'm going to be using this piece of ruled paper, but I'm going to put it on its side. I'm going to be using some colored textures by Stabilo and a little black ballpoint pen and maybe a ruler. So in the Royal Yachting Association Yachtmaster theory, as well as the practical meteorological questions are asked, and it's good to practice these concepts. So I'll draw them out for you today, so you can either have a relaxed revision, or you can just watch me draw, enjoy the sounds, and fall asleep. Now, because I'm going to draw the entire system as it passes, I want some motion. So I'm going to draw a little man with one of these sticky notes after I draw the system. And I'll talk a little bit about the system in some whispers as we go. So first, we're going to have the warm front approaching, and that's going to be here. Now we're looking at this from the ground. We're not looking at a bird's eye view. We're looking at it from 2 dimensions. So your little man is going to be standing there. Let's put an admiral's hat on him. It's Nelson. So there he is, and he's looking that way. Or he's in the midst of this that's happening. So we're in 2 dimensions there. So what's happening here? This is number 1, right? The warm front is approaching. The first thing that happens, and this is all going to be for the northern hemisphere, for the southern hemisphere, you just reverse it. So the wind veers, which means from a bird's eye view it's going to be turning, veering to the right. That's the bird's eye view. The hot air is rising up, and the wind veers and increases in intensity. The second thing that happens is the barometric pressure falls. Why? Because we have warm air going up. And what happens to the clouds? Well, we have cirrus clouds here, and as the air goes up, There's less visibility here. Could be a little bit of rain, maybe a little bit of fog. Less visibility. So this is your warm front approaching. Now make that red. Red for warm. And what do we have? We also have the wind, cool air. Alright, and the second spot we have is right here. This is the warm front passing. When the warm front passes, the wind is still veering, but the pressure stops falling. So barometric pressure remains steady. Rain lessens. If there is any rain, it will lessen to a drizzle. Visibility, however, deteriorates. Visibility becomes worse, and humidity and temperature rise. Humidity increases, temperature rises. So what does that look like? Well, we've got some stratus cloud here, and the wind going there, and we're about right there. Alright, what happens next? We're going to be in position 3. Position 3 is in between sectors. So between sectors, what can we look for? Wind direction is steady, which is a very good point for sailors to know. What else is steady? The barometric pressure is steady and probably reaches its lowest point. There is light rain or patchy drizzle possible. And the visibility. What can we expect with visibility? It can be moderate to poor, with possible fog, and it's very humid. Because what we have is a cold front approaching. That's going to be here. And we know cold air descends. So the air is going to be heavier. But right here, we're between sectors. So I'll number these as well. And there are our stratus clouds. And building a little bit of fog. And a bit of rain. And what happens as this cold front approaches is these clouds will get pushed up and we can get cumulus and oftentimes a nimbus cloud, which means underneath it there are localized squalls. So we can often get these type of nimbus clouds, and we'll get to that in a minute. So those are the nimbus clouds. What's happening in Sector 4, which is what we're just now talking about. The cold front passes. What happens in Sector 4? So the wind is veering with a squall. Pressure is rising sharply. So pay attention to your barometer. When the pressure starts rising sharply, you know that a cold front is passing. So what can you expect? You can expect heavy rain, possibly hail, thunder. In the rain, the visibility will be poor and the temperature drops. So there's Sector 4, the cold front passing. Behind the cold front, we're going to have, of course, rain as the cold front passes, and possible cumulus clouds. Could do this better with watercolors, probably, but we like to play with the textures. So the cumulus clouds have a little bit of rain, and the cold air is coming that way. So we have cold air there, and that puts us in Sector 5. So the entire weather system has gone past, and Sector 5 is going to be behind the cold front. And I do apologize for those of you who like nice handwriting, because today I'm a bit sloppy. But we're in it for the sounds, aren't we? So behind the cold front, our wind direction for you racing sailors is steady. Also, wind is going to be strong and gusty. So that's what you can expect behind the cold front. Steady, strong, gusty winds. What happens to the barometric pressure? It rises. And then levels. So, unlike the cold front passing, where the pressure rises sharply, here we have a steady rise in it. Levels off. The temperature is lower, and the visibility, however, is good. Lower temperature. And possibly sunshine with possible showers. That's all localized showers. So let's put Admiral Nelson here. He is. Now Admiral Nelson is actually going to be stationary, and he's in the approaching. There's cool air around him, and the wind is veering, going to the right in the northern hemisphere as you look at a bird's eye view. Right, so that means if it's coming from the southwest, it's going to veer towards the west or possibly the northwest. We've got cirrus clouds turning into stratus clouds as the clouds descend, and little bits of rain. The pressure is falling, and the warm front is passing. The rain lessens, the pressure stops falling, but the visibility is quite bad, so the Spanish are going to get through the blockade. The humidity and temperature rise. Then, as Nelson's standing there, he's between sectors now. The wind direction remains steady. The pressure remains steady at its lowest point. Light rain and possibly drizzle are happening. Visibility is moderate to poor. It's very humid, and there might be some fog. The clouds bunch up together and tower, becoming a nimbus. The cold front has approached and is passing. There's squalls. The wind continues to veer from what it was in between the sectors. Pressure rises sharply. There's heavy rain, and the temperature drops. So Admiral Nelson knows that as this cold front passes, he can expect the wind direction to be steady, strong, and gusty. He can make really good time chasing the Spanish. The pressure, the barometric pressure, will keep rising a little bit and then level off. His visibility will be good. Temperature will be slightly lower, and there will be sunshine and possibly some localized showers. It is quite interesting to look at weather patterns from above on the synoptic charts and maps, especially in a place like Britain, in our maritime location. So if we have England here, I'm not going to attempt to draw a map, and there's Ireland. So we have the British Isles here. Vaguely, as there are 6 air masses that affect the British Isles. Most of them are maritime because we're an island. We have from the north the Arctic, maritime. This has wet, cold air, and this is one of the winds that will bring snow. We have from the northwest the polar, maritime. This comes from Greenland and the Arctic Sea. It brings wet, cold air and showery weather. Directly from the west is the returning polar, maritime. It's in my handwriting. And this is coming from Greenland and the Arctic via the North Atlantic. So here we can expect mild but moist air that's unstable. It's unstable weather patterns coming from that direction, bringing cloud and rain showers. From the southwest, we have the tropical maritime. This one comes from the Atlantic Ocean. This one is more frequent for much of England. Comes over the Atlantic bringing warm, moist air, a little bit of cloud, and rain and generally mild weather. And if air comes from the southwest, it's pretty much going to be warm. We'll get some nice warm currents coming that way, and some very exciting weather, because you can pretty much watch the weather systems pass. There's a lot of activity here. From the southeast, we have the tropical continental wind. This passes over North Africa and Europe and brings warm, sometimes hot, and dry weather in the summer. So we get a lot of these in the summer with this pushing through a little bit with the cool. So Britain doesn't always have such a steady kind of climate like many continents, continental systems. It can be warm and cold and warm and cold. Weather system will come through and make you think it's the very beginning of spring or the end of autumn in the middle of summer. So it's very changeable, but that's what makes it so exciting. There's always something happening. And the last wind we will talk about is the polar continental. This is coming from over Eastern Europe and Russia. It's going to be very chilly. So anything coming from the east always brings really cold weather, and in my experience can last a little bit, stratus clouds and things. Brings cold, sometimes dry, sometimes wet, depending on the length of the sea tract that this wind takes in its path. It's usually in winter that this comes down because these systems are moving and they kind of get out of each other's way. Let's look at a synoptic chart. Here you can see Britain a little bit below and to the right of center. And you can see the isobars that are marked with barometric pressure. 1008, 1012, 1020, 1024. So we have 3 high pressure systems, one just to the south of Britain over the Channel, one centered around the North Sea near the coast of Germany and Denmark, and one off the coast of northern Norway in the Arctic Sea. The closer these millibars are together, the faster the wind is blowing. You can see by the colors we have warm fronts and cold fronts. So the wind will be going around the highs to the right, and around the lows it will be going to the left, so clockwise around the highs and anti-clockwise or counterclockwise around the lows. We have a low over Iceland and just to the south of Greenland. In the southern hemisphere, this will be opposite direction. We have occluded front, which means that the cold and the warm this means with wind and clouds. Here you can see how the clouds are swirling in the direction of the wind. The high pressures being again over the channel to the west of Denmark, and we have that occluded front in Ireland, so you can see the clouds from the North Atlantic merging. So you can pretty much see the light color over Northern Ireland and Scotland, which will be cirrostratus coming in from the west, and we've got a front coming in from the Atlantic Maritime from the southwest. So these are exactly the clouds that we would expect to see between warm and cold fronts that we have just drawn on our paper chart. So that's a nice little overview of our meteorology in a drawing. And here is Admiral Nelson bidding you a very good day, a relaxing time, reminding you to be good to yourself, be kind to others, and be extremely